You know that feeling when you're like completely physically exhausted, your bones are just aching, but the absolute minute your head hits the pillow,
Oh, your brain just clicks on.
right, it just clicks on like a row of stadium lights. And, we tend to think of that as a uniquely modern symptom, right? Like it's smartphone burnout or endless to-do lists.
Yeah, we blame the modern world for it.
Exactly. But Guru Amar Dasji actually diagnosed that exact restless exhaustion centuries ago. We're looking at excerpts from The Fruit of Devotion and The Illusion of Maya, specifically from Rag Sorath, pages 644 and 645.
It's a really profound text.
It is. And our mission on this deep dive is to, well, explore this text to figure out why his diagnosis of the human mind is so accurate. We want to understand why our usual instinctive attempts to find peace usually backfire and what the text actually prescribes for genuine liberation.
Right. It offers a very specific path.
Okay, let's unpack this because if you, the listener, have ever felt overwhelmed by your own thoughts or distracted by, fleeting worldly success, you're going to find this ancient text surprisingly relevant to your life today.
It really is an uncompromising mirror for us. And, before looking at the text's solutions, we first need to understand its diagnosis of the human condition.
The disease itself.
Exactly. The text talks about this concept of the manmuk.
Right, the self-willed person.
Yeah, that fiercely self-willed state of being. And the text describes the mind of the manmuk as being incredibly stubborn and just utterly out of their control.
Utterly out of control.
Yeah. And because of this, they pass their life in misery and suffering. The text explicitly says they fail to find peace even in their dreams.
See, that specific detail about dreams, that's what really caught my attention.
It's striking, isn't it?
It is, because it perfectly describes that modern experience of chronic anxiety and burnout. It's that feeling of being completely depleted, but your subconscious is like just as stressed out as your conscious mind.
You're denied peace even when you're asleep.
Right. And the text points to a very specific culprit for this, right? It says the mind is, quote, stuck in the love of duality.
Yes, duality.
But, when it talks about duality, it seems to go beyond just being hypocritical or two-faced.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is that the text views this suffering not as a mere psychological quirk, It's a spiritual separation.
Okay, how so?
Well, the stubbornness comes from the ego trying to govern itself. Duality is this fundamental delusion of being completely separate from the universe. It's me versus everything else.
So instead of aligning with a higher truth, it's just fighting for itself.
Right. The friction of the ego constantly trying to be the CEO of the universe. That friction is the misery and suffering the text is talking about.
It's exhausting itself defending borders that don't actually exist.
Precisely. And so if the mind is restless and suffering, how do we fix it?
Well, the natural instinct, right, is to just do something about it. Which brings us to the cures people attempt.
Yeah, the cures that the text explicitly critiques.
Right. It points out that traditional religious acts simply do not work to control this stubborn mind.
They just don't work.
The text says the pandits have grown tired of going door to door, reading and reciting scriptures.
Uh-huh.
And it mentions the siddhas are exhausted from their trances of samadhi.
Yeah, the deep meditation.
Right. And then it talks about impersonators who have grown weary of wearing false costumes and bathing at the 68 sacred shrines.
They're doing all this intense work.
Yeah, but despite all these religious rituals, the mind remains totally uncontrolled. But I have to push back on the text's logic here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Wait a minute. Aren't studying scriptures, going into deep meditation and taking pilgrimages supposed to be like the ultimate spiritual fixes?
That's what we usually think, yeah.
Right. So why is the text dismissing the very things we assume make someone holy?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text sees these merely as external actions. It literally calls them false costumes.
False costumes. Wow.
Yeah. The performers of these actions are deluded by doubt and egotism. Because, as the text points out, they do not know the state of their own minds. So all the physical exhaustion of, say, visiting 68 shrines, it's totally pointless if you don't know your own mind. It's just an illusion of progress.
So it's like putting a spiritual disguise on the ego. The ego loves a checklist, right?
It loves a checklist.
And walking to 68 shrines gives it something to cross off. So the pandits and siddhas are exhausted, but internally they haven't moved an inch.
Exactly. They are still that self-willed manmuk.
Okay, so if external performative rituals fail to cure this, if they're just an illusion, what is the actual antidote to the stubborn mind?
That's where the deep dive shifts to the text's internal solutions.
Right, the internal focus.
Yeah, the text states that service to the true guru is fruitful. But, and this is a big, but only if performed with a focused mind.
Not just going through the motions.
Exactly. When the mind is focused, this allows the rare name, or the name, to dwell in the mind of the gurmukh.
And the gurmukh being the one oriented toward the guru, the opposite of the manmukh.
Yes, and crucially, it says that by guru's grace, the fear of God is obtained.
Okay, the fear of God.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is this fear that finally restrains the mind, and through the word of the Shabbat, the ego is burnt away.
Burnt away.
Yeah, it breaks the bonds, bringing liberation and allowing one's light to merge in the true Lord.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. The text uses this almost violent imagery.
Oh, very much so.
You know, restraint, fear, burning, all for what is ultimately a peaceful outcome.
Right.
It really made me think of a controlled forest fire.
Oh, that's a great analogy. Walk us through that.
Well, you know, on the surface, a forest fire sounds incredibly destructive.
Sure.
But ecologically, it's actually the only way to clear out all the dense, toxic underbrush that chokes the forest over time.
Yeah, the dead material.
Right. You have to literally burn it away so that new growth and ultimate peace in this context can actually thrive. The fear of God and the burning of the ego is that controlled fire clearing out our self-will.
That perfectly captures it, because the text is really contrasting this internal surrender against all those external rituals we talked about.
Right, the shrines and the costumes.
Exactly. The fruits of what the mind truly desires aren't achieved by traveling to shrines. They're achieved by letting the word burn away the ego from within.
From the inside out.
Yes,
Yeah.
allowing the individual to remain absorbed in the true Lord.
Okay, so if the path to inner peace is this internal focus, this internal burning, why are we constantly pulled away from it?
That is the eternal question, right?
Right. And the text has an answer. It blames the alluring yet temporary nature of Maya or worldly illusions.
It does. It gives a very stark warning about Maya.
Yeah, it says that the pleasures of kings and emperors are pleasing, but they last only a few days.
Just a few days.
And it specifically compares the pleasures of Maya to the color of the safflower, which the text says wears off in a moment.
The safflower analogy is brilliant.
So what does this all mean? I mean, I looked into this, and historically, safflower was used to dye shirts and garments.
Right, to make these incredibly vibrant colors.
Yes, beautiful, vibrant, expensive-looking colors. You might look incredibly royal for a single day, but it's known as a fugitive dye, meaning the absolute moment it rains or you wash it, the color washes out completely.
It just vanishes.
Exactly. It perfectly captures how we chase these fleeting worldly statuses, you know, playing kings and emperors that eventually just vanish in the rain.
And this raises an important question, because the text gives us a very stark depiction of what that rain actually is.
The end of life.
Yes. The text says that when death seizes him and marches him away, all of that vibrant safflower dye of worldly success is just gone.
Just completely washed out.
Exactly. But the ultimate tragedy outlined in the text isn't just that the wealth is gone.
What is it then?
It's that when death seizes this person, these pleasures do not go with them. Instead, they carry a heavy load of sins on their head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the text says they look absolutely hideous, and they are left with immense regret over a lost opportunity.
A lost opportunity, because they invested everything in the safflower dye.
Right. They invested in the illusion instead of the internal path. And that opportunity will never come into their hands again.
That is heavy. So instead of carrying the wealth they spent their whole life defending, they're just carrying the friction and the sins they committed to get it.
Yes, the heavy load.
Well, this has been an incredible journey through these pages. To wrap up this deep dive for you listening, we've gone from diagnosing the restless, duality-stricken mind.
Of a memhek.
Right, the menmukh. We looked at the sheer futility of performative rituals, you know, wearing false costumes and visiting 68 shrines.
Because you can't outrun your own mind.
Exactly. And then we explored the true internal liberation of letting the word burn away the ego, like that controlled forest fire.
Which is the only way to merge the light in the light.
And finally, we confronted the stark warning against chasing the fading safflower dye of Maya.
It's a lot to reflect on.
It is. And we want to leave you with a final thought to ponder on your own, building directly on what this text lays out.
Go ahead.
The text makes it absolutely clear that the opportunity of this life is fleeting, and it will not come into your hands again. So if your worldly achievements and your status are guaranteed to wash away like safflower dye the absolute moment death marches you away,
Yeah.
what heavy load are you unknowingly packing right now that you will actually be forced to carry with you?
That's the real question.
Think about that the next time your brain clicks on at 3 a.m. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.